What's good, y'all? Thanks for tuning in and welcome back to another episode of ShookFocuz. And in this one, we got somebody with a little bit of an alternative view on this spot Bitcoin ETF. Someone who thinks it may not be like the greatest idea for Bitcoin and kind of what the original vision of what Bitcoin was supposed to be. But as we get into it, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just here to bring you the news. Let's get it. All right, so we got another article here from Helen Parts, man. Shout out to Helen. She came through with the article that we used for the last video. You did. But this one, as I said, is a little bit of an alternative view from what we saw in the last one. Not opposing, right? Not necessarily a direct opposement. That's not a word. Opposal to it, not direct opposites, right? But more of an alternative view, right? And you'll figure out where I stand on this by the end of the article. We know it never takes me very long. Spot Bitcoin ETF could result in millions of unbacked BTC, an analyst says. Spot Bitcoin ETFs may take people further from self-custody and potentially create millions of unbacked Bitcoin, Trezor's Tik-Tok believes. So let's take a look at this image here, man. This is another one that I thought was really dope. I mean, to me, it looks like, hey, Bitcoin, like it's saying like, hey, this spot ETF could cause Bitcoin to be, overinflated. And, it caused the balloon to pop, the Bitcoin balloon to pop, right? Which would be, what do you want to call it? Like a, some sort of a, devaluation, right? The price will drop back down, or, something negative could come from this, right? This overinflation of Bitcoin. But let's get into the article, right? Potential approval of a spot Bitcoin exchange-traded ETF in the United States will trigger fundamental problems related to the original vision of Bitcoin by the anonymous creator Satoshi Nakamoto, according to one analyst. Right now, when we talk about the original vision, we're talking about that nice peer-to-peer, no middleman, remove all these banker fees and straight to you, your money on demand, whenever you need it, ready to go. You know what I mean? All right, tangent over, but right, that was kind of that original vision of Bitcoin, right? Send it to friends and family, no in betweens, right? Custody your own, right? Get back to owning your own finances, so to speak. Continuing on though. The concept of a spot Bitcoin ETF, an investment product that tracks the price of Bitcoin by holding Bitcoin, conflicts with the idea of self-custody, according to Tik-Tok, a Bitcoin analyst at the hardware crypto wallet firm Trezor. Unlike a Bitcoin ETF, self-custodial crypto storage solutions allow users to own Bitcoin by taking full responsibility for holding the private key or the actual assets. The quote, in principle, spot Bitcoin ETFs take people further from self-custody and potentially introduce a systemic risk, as ETFs will be safer on the surface than exchanges, Tik-Tok said in an interview with Cointelegraph. Aha, right? Remember in the last article we had him talking about the effect this could have on exchanges. One possible consequence of a spot Bitcoin ETF approval could be that large quantities of Bitcoin would be stored in central locations where the government could seize them, the analyst said, referring to a scenario seen with the confiscation of gold in the United States in the 1930s. Ooh, good old gold jacking. Okay. Interesting option to bring to the forefront here. And while a spot Bitcoin ETF would make exposure to Bitcoin price movements more accessible to individuals and institutions alike, simply buying Bitcoin through conventional means would offer the same exposure. Do we really need ETFs for this? So I'll come back to that when we get to the end of the article here. Another significant issue with a spot Bitcoin ETF is that the ETF holders will not have the option to withdraw the underlying asset. Instead, these assets are held in aggregate by the ETF itself, which raises the possibility of unchecked issuance of paper Bitcoin, not supported by actual Bitcoin, the supply of which is capped at 21 million coins. The analyst stated, the result could be the creation of millions of unbacked Bitcoin, which would distort genuine markets and depress the value of real Bitcoin, all while handing greater agency to the giants of centralized traditional finance, the very antithesis of Satoshi's original vision. Antithesis. Finally. Tik's remark on self-custody versus spot Bitcoin ETFs flag a potential downside amid the growing optimism on the market, with various firms and analysts expecting U.S. securities regulators to approve a spot Bitcoin ETF in January of 2024. Not everyone has been optimistic about spot Bitcoin ETFs, though. Arthur Hayes, founder of crypto exchange BitMEX, believes that spot Bitcoin ETFs could completely destroy Bitcoin if they are too successful. If not Bitcoin, such ETFs will likely compete with centralized crypto exchanges like Coinbase, as ETF fees are expected to be lower than those on exchanges, according to some Bloomberg analysts. According to quantum economics founder Matti Greenspan, there is no direct conflict between self-custody and spot Bitcoin ETFs because retail users will stick to self-custody. Personally speaking, I would never buy any sort of paper IOUs from Bitcoin, but that's because I have the option to self-custody. Greenspan tells Cointelegraph, most institutions don't have that option, he added. There are zero advantages and plenty of disadvantages for retail investors to hold Bitcoin ETFs. Way better to just hold Bitcoin, Greenspan stated. Now, let's work backwards here. So, and these are just my opinions. These are just my thoughts, right? You let me know what you think. But so what Greenspan says here, I give it like a 50%. You should hold your own Bitcoin, right? That was the original goal. Sure, you should definitely hold your own Bitcoin. But if you are a trader, right, I could see people who are active, right, liking the idea, active traders, right, liking the idea of an ETF.
Look at it. We have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure.
I can see that, but for long-term storage, yeah, I would definitely want the real Bitcoin. Those would be my thoughts. Let's see here. Now let's get to Tik. This is kind of the new stuff that we wanted to talk about, right? The result could be the creation of millions of unbacked Bitcoin, which would distort genuine markets and depress the value of real Bitcoin, all while handing greater agency to the giants of centralized traditional finance, the very antithesis of Satoshi's original vision. And I talked a little bit about that original vision, right? But I mean, in a way, it's not wrong, but it doesn't mean you can't do both. Right? In the first one, right, a spot Bitcoin ETF would make exposure to Bitcoin price moves more accessible, but simply buying Bitcoin would offer the same exposure. It's possible, and even buying Bitcoin may net you more, right? Because there's nothing else to pay out. But you know, it's not that expensive to get into some of these ETFs if you get them in like retirement accounts and stuff, right? So, I mean, that you could argue, you could maybe make an argument there, but I don't know, it might wash out. But it's right. You could get that exposure, but the ease of the ETF comes with folks who are not necessarily technically savvy, right? This guy is he works for Trezor, right? Fairly tech savvy, one might say, at least in this space for sure, right? Gotta be. But somebody like my parents, oh no, an ETF that they can trade on, you know, Robinhood or Webull, you know, is probably 10 times easier for them than holding the actual Bitcoin. So could definitely see both sides of this. So very, very interesting. Very interesting. What do y'all think? Do y'all think this goes too much against the original vision of Bitcoin? And the question to end it with, do you think the spot Bitcoin ETF would cause an overinflation of the Bitcoin price, causing the Bitcoin balloon to pop and leave somebody holding a deflated balloon? Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Until next time, don't get shook. Stay focused. I'm out.